So there's this unspoken rule that you have to earn in order to rest as a teacher. That good teachers are going to hustle and that bad teachers are the ones that work ahead. Well, let's be honest, this mindset has honestly led to burnout for a lot of teachers. So how do you actually prepare for January now so you can rest without having to burn yourself out to the ground in order to earn that rest? Well, that's what we're going to be covering today, so make sure to tune in because you're not going to want to miss this.
Hey, teacher bestie. My name's Helena, and I'm the creator of the Present Teacher Podcast. I'm a first year teacher coach, and in this podcast, you are going to learn everything from simple, actionable classroom management, social emotional learning, and teacher wellness strategies. You know that impact you want to make in the classroom? Well, we're going to make it happen here.
So, a common problem that many teachers run into during winter break is they are exhausted. They are overworked, trying to catch up or get ahead, and they spend their entire break trying to get caught up, and they end up compensating. And by the time they go back to work, they're completely burned out because they spent their entire break working instead of resting. So, with that being said, here's a shift I want to recommend that we make, and that is rest is productive when you set yourself up for success. So, I had this epiphany several years ago. I felt guilty because I found a way to make teaching easy, and I was starting to do it for my business and my community here online. And I realized that my definition of a good teacher wasn't what society was. Society says that good teachers have to hustle, to work hard, and sacrifice their self-worth and their time and, their life and personal life outside of teaching to be good teachers. Um, they're not the ones that make teaching easy. And that's when I realized that I had this shame for letting myself rest. I felt guilty for resting. I felt guilty for letting things be easy because I had free time, and who am I to make things easy when so many teachers out there struggle? And so what would happen was I would self-sabotage. I would give myself more work as a teacher and as a business owner. I would, redo my bulletin 1,000 times. I would take twice as long to write lesson plans. I would put off and procrastinate things. And this led to more work and things taking more time than they needed because I wanted to fill up the time because I felt guilty for having spare time or not having to work hard as a teacher. So I didn't feel comfortable letting myself rest because I deserved rest without burning out. I felt like I had to burn out and work hard in order to earn that rest instead of accepting the fact that I just get to deserve rest because I do. And I had to decide that I was worthy of rest because I was, and it wasn't something I had to earn. So, with that being said, here are three ways to prep for January from a relaxed state. We're not going to do it from a frantic hustle state, but from a relaxed way. So the first thing is lesson batching. So sit down, and this is where you sit down and you plan things at once. So batching is doing like-minded tasks all at one time. Think of Henry Ford in the assembly line. When you're doing one task over and over again, you can get farther as opposed to having a long list of different tasks you need to do. It's going to take you longer to accomplish those. It's the same idea. So what you're going to do is you're going to want to choose a time in your break or before break where you're going to sit down and plan all out at once. You can, sit down and set a Pomodoro timer. This is a timer where you have like 15 minutes working, 10-minute break, 40 minutes working, 20-minute break. But what I like to do is I like to go onto YouTube, type in Pomodoro timer, and I like to sit down for like an hour and I like to see how far in lesson planning I can get. And then during that time, I'm just seeing if I can, get a week done, a day done, whatever my goal is. And then I'm going to take my break and then I'm going to do it again and see if I can get it even farther. And what you're going to find is the more that you do this, the farther and more efficiently you're going to get that task done. So, for example, let's say you do this, and the first time you do this, maybe you only plan a day or you get 1 day's of lesson plans done in 40 minutes. Well, what you might find is the next time you do it, and then you can get 2 days of lesson plans done, and then three, and then eventually you're going to become more efficient at it, and it's going to become easier and quicker. So that's the first thing you're going to want to do. The second thing you're going to want to do is prep batching. So it's the same concept of doing like-minded tasks all at once, but this time you're going to prep your materials all at once. So what you're going to do is you're going to take all your lesson plans that you just batched and you're going to prep all the materials at once. Same thing. You can grab a Pomodoro timer and start prepping out all the materials. This is the same system I actually used for maternity leave. Is I sat down and I set a timer for an hour and I did 6 weeks worth of lesson plans in an hour. And then the next day during my prep, I sat down and I did 1 hour of prepping. I took all the lesson plans and grabbed all the materials and went to the printer, hung out, sipped my coffee, and printed out all the materials I'm going to need for those 6 weeks. That way they were done, ready to go. So, as a recap, the first step is lesson batching. The second thing is prep batching. The third thing is to set time aside to review routines and procedures. So, I always like to review after a break. Or before a break, but especially after a break, the routines and procedures of the classroom. And I like to do this to reset expectations and procedures. Um, Things like procedures are how you want your students to move about the classroom. So this could look like raising your hand, getting in line, call vets, etc., for example. So the way I like to teach this is I like to model the right way that we do the procedure, and then we have a discussion on what it should look like and sound like, and then I model the wrong way to do it, and then we have a discussion on what it shouldn't look like and sound like and why it's important to do it the right way. And then we practice until it becomes perfect or near perfect. And so if you want more of an idea on what these procedures can look like, make sure to check out my classroom procedure slides if you want me to create these for you or just kind of get an idea on what something like this can look like. So when you come into January with 1 or 2 weeks planned and prepped, you can keep that momentum going. So let's say leave, you go off to winter break and you have the first 2 weeks done of January. Well, when you come back during that first week, your prep, you're going to plan the third week. And then once you're hit the second week, you're going to plan the fourth week out. And what you're going to notice is you're going to constantly have this 2 week buffer. Granted, yes, you may go back, you might tweak some of your lesson plans. You might reteach some things, you might modify some of the materials you use, but pretty much if you keep the momentum going, you're always going to be at least 2 weeks out if you use this practice. And it doesn't have to be complicated. I think it's very easy to think I have to hustle and work really hard to get ahead, but the reality is simple is a way to get there. You can keep the momentum going, and from this point on, you can always be 2 weeks ahead if you focus on getting 2 weeks ahead before winter break ends. And you don't have to come in over winter break to achieve it either. Like I said, what I ended up doing is I used one prep to lesson plan the first 2 weeks of January or 6 weeks of maternity leave. And then the second day or my prep, I used that to prep the materials for those 2 weeks or my maternity leave. So that wraps up everything in regards to how to actually get ahead over winter break. So as a recap, we talked about the common problem. Teachers usually crash into winter break feeling exhausted because they've worked so hard, and they might use winter break to get ahead only to feel even more exhausted and burned out when they come back from break instead of rejuvenated. And the second thing we talked about is having that shift of rest is productive when you set yourself up for success. And you deserve rest because you do. And that was a momentum shift or a mindset shift I definitely had to make. The next one is I shared 3 quick ways to prep. We talked about lesson planning, organizing. We talked about lesson batching, we talked about prep batching, and then reset routines in order to set yourself up for success to get ahead over winter break. And then we talked about how you can do this and maintain momentum going into January so you're always 2 weeks ahead. So I hope you found this helpful. If you did, I would really appreciate it if you can like and subscribe wherever you're tuning in from. And if you want more of a behind the scenes on some of the systems I use in my classroom, I highly recommend you check out my book. It's coming out very, very soon. I'll have a wait list in the description. And anyone who accesses that book is going to get access to my free 3-day training on how to get ahead in the new year. So make sure to check that out in the description down below. If you want to take it a step further and you want my top 10 tips to how to maintain or maximize your prep and your time as a teacher, make sure to check out my free guide. This free prep guide answers the top 10 questions I get in regards to how to get ahead over your prep and to work smarter, not harder. If you want to take it a step further and you want me to show you behind the scenes on how I run my classroom, everything from classroom management, organization, grading, planning, prepping, batching, all the things, make sure to check out the Present Teacher Circle. This is my community for new and first year teachers where I show you everything you could possibly need to make your life easier as a new teacher. As always, remember we are stronger together, and I'll see you in the next one, Teacher Bestie. Bye!
Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. I hope that you were able to take away some value that will help you thrive inside and out of the classroom. It would mean the world to me if you could take 5 seconds right now and leave a review on this podcast. And if you found this podcast especially helpful, make sure to take a screenshot of this episode right now and tag me on your socials to let me know you're listening. As always, remember that we are stronger together with all the love in the world. Helena, aka the Present Teacher. See you next time, Teacher Bestie.